Hey, the NBA offseason is in full swing. Lots of movement going on around the league. We're going to have Ricky O'Donnell join us in just a few minutes to talk about the NBA draft and the moves in free agency and what might be next for the Bulls. But first, I want to welcome Whispers back. You missed the show last week.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, nice to see you. You're still red as always.
Well, I had a long weekend in the sun. So.
I didn't really know he was gone. I thought that we had a cardboard picture of you.
I'll just
come
go
on, man.
here.
We do things.
Let's
come
go
on.
over here.
Don't let Mark come between us.
Come on.
So this is why the Beatles broke up. He's Yoko Ono. Come on, stay with me, baby. Stay with me, Whispers.
Well, the trip was worth it, though.
It was worth
that's
it.
good.
Yeah, the guy I was meeting with, he fell down and hit himself in the head and missed the meeting.
Did you push
real?
him?
Yeah.
Was he an old guy?
No, not really. But if you fall down and crack your skull, you're gonna have a brain
Alcohol
bleed
makes
and-
cowards of us
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I literally had one beer with the guy the next morning. Where are you at?
all. Wow.
I'm in the hospital with your badge. So, hey,
Wow.
good luck today.
Wow. That's terrible.
But still had a good meeting, so it was all good.
And you guys had another good meeting. You got some news on the hot
Dun,
sauce
dun,
front.
dun,
Breaking news.
That's right.
There's breaking news. Whispers, tell our listeners.
We went to the Marianos Guppy Tank, or the Shark Tank, as they call it.
Shark
Nice.
Tank.
And they said there was going to be a panel of 4 or 5 people. It was 9. And so...
Mark Cuban there?
no.
No. But it was very intimidating.
Mhm.
It was very
there was, we had the...
You had to sell
We had the
yourself.
saddlebags of sweat going.
Yeah,
It was nice.
No, he did.
That's always a good
that
look.
guy did.
Yeah.
Don't blame that guy did.
No,
I
he
was
did not.
I was cool as a cucumber.
No,
Okay,
on the ride there with, Mike...
Mike,
you
our
guys-
driver from Windy
you guys
City.
ready?
right?
I said, yeah, I sent a script to Stacey, so we're all prepared. Stacey, did you go over it? No.
No,
Let's just wing it.
Stacey's a natural talent. He doesn't need a script.
if you would have saw the script, Mark, okay, it wasn't like a little paragraph. It was like this huge thing, like it was actually like a play.
Like preparation is what it looked
Okay,
like.
let me tell you something. Like what did I tell you before we left? Coffee's for closers, right? Did I not say
yeah,
that?
he did mention
Okay,
that.
and I closed the show. Okay, so we get in there, Mark. We're looking for the place. Tim gets us on the wrong floor. So he
that's
gets
okay.
us on. We're looking for 2M.
That's my
We're looking for
fault.
2M. He goes to 2. We're walking around asking everybody. I swear there must have been like some people that's like we've been smoking weed or drunk because the people who worked there didn't even know where 2M was. It's like
Only one elevator has 2M.
Only one elevator has
Of course,
2M.
we got on the one that
Okay.
doesn't have
Yeah.
2M.
So then I go, I think we should go to the elevator that said 2M. So we go to the elevator 2M, and then we end up going up into like this little, where would you call that thing we were
Like
at?
a loft.
Man, it was like small. My head was hitting pipes. That's how small it was, right? And then there was a guy in front of us who was trying to get his dog biscuits in the store. And there were legit people trying to get things in the store. They had like probably over 50
Those
people.
tasted pretty good, though.
Yeah.
And for dog treats.
Well, I'm not getting my dog.
Did you eat a couple?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he ate one. Yeah,
protein
yeah,
snack.
Yeah, that's why he couldn't talk when they asked him questions. He was like,
Water.
But so we waited our chance to come. We got some chips and got some stuff that's for the people to sample. And we go out there, and I just knew it was when we first walked out. I was intimidated because they didn't even look at us. Like they weren't even looking at us when we walked in. I was like, oh, the Stacey King effect ain't gonna work here.
And they didn't ask you about your basketball career at all?
No. They
One guy's wearing a Piston shirt. That didn't help.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Listen, Mark. At that point we walked in, I don't think they really give a damn. They were like they were just like doing this, and because someone had just went in front of us, so they were writing down maybe notes from the
We're
previous
number
guy.
6.
So the product had to sell itself. It wasn't Stacey King, former NBA player.
No,
It had to do the sauce.
I don't think that really came into play until probably about 5 minutes into the presentation. Then just my ability to just charm the room like a snake charmer. I snake charmed everybody in that room.
Before. Yeah.
I charmed them. When I was young, I used to charm girls out of their pants, but I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to do that, Mark, for the give me the hot sauce. I just needed people to pay attention to me. So
Statute of limitations.
And they all started looking at me. And it was all over after that.
Wow.
Tim did a great job too. Tim did a really good job.
Wow, look at that.
He did.
It's like throwing a manhole cover for him.
because he had a game plan of who was going to go first, whatever. And I said, no, you're going to go first. You're going to set the table, and you're going to tell them about yourself and da-da-da. And then I'm going to come on, and I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to run with it. And so it's like passing the baton, the 4x400 relay. Give me the stick. I'm bringing it home.
The Anchorman.
Yeah. And it was awesome. It was awesome. When we got off, you could tell we did good because as we were walking off, first of all, they were, oh, you guys are really good. Have you ever done this before? Like, no, never done it before. They were so shocked that we had never done it before. But you know you're good when everybody else behind you coming up is like, man, you guys did a really good job, man. Oh, it's tough to follow. That's why I told the team, I was like, we must have rocked it.
Nice. So when will the product be in Marianos, or is that still to be determined?
They said they're going to do a follow-up next week, and
nice.
then we'll get all the numbers done. They have all the numbers already, so it should be good to go.
And there are 80 Marianos stores. Is that all in Illinois, or are they in different states in the Midwest?
I think they got to be spread around. I don't know if that includes Roundies or not. I got to look at their numbers because there were some Roundies people there too.
Yeah, there was some. It was intimidating. They weren't sharks, but it looked like a Shark Tank presentation. Like, because there was really more. If you really count, there's probably 12 if you count the other three people that were there. So there was like 12 people in there, and the judges were sitting sitting right in front of us. So we had
a few tough questions too.
Yeah, they had real tough questions. And I think the thing that helped us, Mark, was because we've been in Jewel before. Our product has been in Jewel. We've had success there. We've had success online. So I think that also helped. And then the sweet vocals of myself, the snake charmer. I'm
watching these bolts sticking out of the ceiling. I'm like, man, don't.
Yeah,
just let's not have.
Everybody was concerned about me hitting my head on the stuff that was hanging. I was kind of concerned with it too, but I was trying to hit my head on so I can sue. Because there's always an angle, Mark.
Stacey's always got a plan B.
There's always a plan B. If we don't get the role, I'm just laying on the floor.
Well, I just told him about missing a meeting because of a brain bleed.
Yeah,
I didn't need another one.
Oh yeah,
but it was
fun though. It was fun. Shout out to Mike Amaroth from Windy City. He took us out there. He gave us he said, "Hey, you guys are gonna do good." He was the pep coach for Tim because Tim was really worried in the back of the truck. He's really worried, and we came in with a massage. Let me tell you something. We came in with that. We came in ready. Like we it wasn't just the hot sauce. Tim had a nice little setup. The lights came on. I mean, it's all bells and whistles. Then we brought our display.
Right.
And they were amazed at the display because at first, some people bring in like little flimsy, cheap displays, and we brought that display, and they were really like impressed by that.
Taking
display.
Pictures of it. Actually.
Yeah, they're like, this is a very good display. And one guy said he could climb on it. I was like, don't do that, big fella. Don't do that. I don't want you to fall, brother. But it turned out really good. It was a lot of fun. It was a good experience, because you get to, you had to go in there and win people over, So I can imagine what Shark Tank is really like.
Yeah. And those are huge dollars we're talking about.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I can see like that's intimidating. And plus the people on Shark Tank have to put on a show. Like, and we were prepared to do that. Tim was prepared to, dance and do whatever he needed to do, get naked and show his chest, his red chest, whatever he needed to do to get the hot sauce. He was prepared to do it. And when we left, we said, hey, so you didn't have to take your shirt off.
Just like Christopher Walken, former song and dance man, right?
Yeah. That's right. I was always a song and dance man.
His nipples were hard, too. So that's what I'm saying. If he would have taken his shirt off, he might have hit everybody in the room, Mark.
They asked me, are you so red from the sauce? I said, yeah.
Yeah. It's really hot.
No. The lady goes, do you need any water?
Yeah.
do you need some
sunscreen?
You need an aspirin? You need an aspirin to bring down your blood pressure? It's all red.
You're going to stroke out?
It's all red, baby. Baby, the red Tim. That's what I call him, Red Timmy, baby. We got the job done. Way to go, boy. Way to go.
All right, so until it gets in Marianos, tell the folks how they can order some hot sauce online.
Well, Mark, as you know, it's the 4th of July. It's America's birthday, and there's no better time to fire up the grill, some barbecue and some hot sauce. Put some wings on, maybe a little green sauce in the morning with your eggs. I mean, what better way to start the day on the 4th with some Vade?
Nice.
That's right.
I'm really glad he didn't do that. Thank God, or Mike Tyson.
He probably was.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he didn't do that impersonation. We might have lost.
Well, I didn't tell you guys this, but beforehand, she's like, I mean, who sponsors you guys? I'm like, well, we do have Mike Tyson. And he's like,
oh my God.
Suffering succotash.
Yeah. I'm glad. Hey,
Sylvester
America.
Alley Cat.
America, if he would have done that, it would have been over. It would have been a wrap.
No.
We wouldn't have won nothing. We wouldn't have won anything.
Hey, let's talk a little basketball. Free agency is underway. The Bulls, since we've talked to you last, we had Casey Johnson on last week. If you missed that episode, make sure to check it out. We covered a lot of topics Bulls related. They've signed Jalen Smith, a guy that Stacey talked about for a couple of years now.
Yes.
Finally listened to me.
Yeah.
I wanted him when he was in Phoenix because his numbers when he played were really, really well. You know, he had to get minutes to play, and then he ended up going to Indiana. I don't know if it was via trade or signing us free agent. I don't remember. But when he went there, I was like, man, that's the guy who I wanted to get. And he played well in Indiana. I mean, look at his numbers. He's played well against Indiana. He's played well against the Bulls when he's had opportunities. They just had a log jam of bigs. You got Turner, Jackson. I mean, Siakam. You got Obi Toppin. They just got so many guys, and they probably just didn't have enough money to go out. They probably wanted them, but they probably didn't have enough money to go get them. And they wanted to use because they signed T.J. McConnell to a big contract. Siakam got that big contract, so there's not a lot of money left for them before they have to go into that luxury tax part mode. So they probably just said, "Oh, we'll just let him go. We got enough big guys." And he fell right to the Bulls. And another young piece. And this is what I keep trying to tell Bulls Nation. Okay, I get into Twitter battles all the time about this. Okay. Bulls Nation, the real Bulls Nation. I know you understand what the Bulls are doing, okay? It's for the people who are the casual fans who don't know. Okay, listen, you can build your team through the draft. Okay, this was considered one of the weakest drafts ever in the last 10, 15 years. I don't think it was weak. I thought there was a lot of good players in that draft. But you're getting 19-year-old kids, okay, so have no NBA experience. So you bring a 19-year-old and you're building your team through 19-year-olds. It's going to take you 5 years minimum to see any kind of benefits from drafting those kids, if any of them even pan out. But what the Bulls are doing, they're going out getting established 22, 24-year-old players who have started games in the NBA, who have starts under their belt, who have played in rotations, who have played big minutes in the NBA. And they're getting these guys at 23, 24 years old. They're bypassing actually building through the draft by being able to get young established players to come in and be ready to play right away. I think they end up getting a really good player in the draft with the big kid from Hinsdale, Buzelis. I think he's going to be a stud. So I think they're doing it the right way. And I know a lot of people are frustrated, like, oh, why are you getting this guy? He didn't do this. Smith is a hell of a player. Giddey's a hell of a player. Giddey, the first 2 years in the league, was a stud in this league. Okay, 16, 17 points a game, flirting around with a triple-double. He reminds you of a little bit of a Alonzo Ball type of player that can do so many different things. Then you go out and get Jalen Smith, who can rebound, stretch five. We needed a backup.
Re-signed Patrick Williams.
We got re-signed Patrick Williams. And I know a lot of people are not happy about this, but America, Bulls Nation, I'm telling you right now, we had this situation with Coby a few years ago when Coby was coming back out from a torn labrum. When they brought Zoe in, you had Alex Caruso, you had a whole new team. And no one knew where Coby was going to play. No one knew what his role was. People was like, trade him. When he came back like, maybe December he came back, couldn't make a shot. Oh, he sucks. Trade him. He's trash. He's a bust. Now look at him. He's on the cusp of being an all-star next year if he can have the same season he had. So that tells you, stop giving up on these young players. They're hard to find. Good players are hard to find. Patrick Williams has proven, give him minutes, give him an opportunity to play. He can play this game. He averaged 10 points last year. Doesn't sound like a lot from a person that's been in this league now 3-4 years, but you look at the guys, the high-volume scorers that we had on this team. Zach Lavine's going to get 15 or more shots a night. Demar, 15 or more shots. Vuk, 12 to 20 shots. I mean, the shot selection in Coby was able to get, 14 shots a game. There's not a lot of shots to give around. For him to get as many shots he did and average 10 points, temper the frustration, he's not worth that money. He is worth that money.
And now he's going to play his preferred position,
small forward,
and they're going to run plays for him.
He's going to play small forward, which is his natural position. I thought everybody was out of position last year. Just be honest. DeMar's a 2 guard. You had him playing small forward. Can he play small forward? Yeah, he can play small forward, but that's not his natural position. Patrick Williams playing stretch 4. Later in his career, he can be a stretch 4. But early in his career, he's a 3-and-D player. He's a guy that needs to play small forward. He's a guy that he's shown that he can knock down a 3. He can show you can defend anybody on the floor. And you have the versatility to move him to the 4 when you need to move him to the 4 if they go small. So I'd like to see him at small forward, and hopefully he gets to play that this year.
Really interesting how the roster has changed just in the span of a few weeks. The Bulls now have 8 players that are going to play that are 24 years of age or younger. So they've immediately turned into one of the younger teams in the NBA. Unfortunately, with that, we're going to be very soon saying goodbye to DeMar DeRozan. I know that's painful for Bulls fans because he's been nothing but a first-class player and a first-class citizen for the 3 years he's been here. Unfortunately, right now with the direction the Bulls are going, They weren't going to pay DeMar $30-40 million a year. And fortunately for DeMar, the market's kind of dried up. And now they're talking he may have to take the mid-level exception for 1 year and then hopefully get a bigger contract next year in free agency.
Well, and again, Mark, you hit the nail on the head. Ultimate pro, guy that really is great in the locker room with young players and still can get it done at a high level. Unfortunately, he's run into a situation. This is a kind of a / rebuild, retool situation to go younger. Does he fit in their long-term plans? No. So that's going to be a tough situation. Could they bring him back for a 1-year deal? They probably could if they really wanted. If they wanted to do that. But why? Because next year's draft, you need to keep that top 10 pick.
Yeah,
next
I
year.
don't think they want to win 40 games.
You got to listen. If we're going, if this team with the young team that they've gone, if they get into the playoffs, hey, that's awesome. They're not supposed to. But if they all turn out to be better than what we think and they come out and play hard and, because there's going to be 6 or 7 teams in the East that are going to be just like the Bulls, that this young team could win more games than we expect. But let's be real. That's not what the goal is. The goal is to develop these young players, to position ourselves to try to get in that top 10 pick next year and not give it to San Antonio. And if we have guys on our team like Vuk and we have DeMar DeRozan, we have Zach Lavine, that ups your chance of that pick going to San Antonio. So that's something the Bulls. I'm not a GM and I don't play one. Okay, I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, but that's they're going to have to make that decision, and that's a tough decision to make because sometimes AK seems like he doesn't want to rebuild. He wants to win now, and then there's other times where he says, where we need to go younger. So you just kind of don't know the direction. But from what we've seen, it looks like they're retooling with young guys. And I've always said this: if I was a general manager, instead of building through the draft, I'd do just like AK do. I would go get guys off of teams' benches that are not playing and that had some experience playing for them, and I would bring those guys on my roster. I'd save money that way, get myself under the cap, and I would get young players that have a high ceiling. And that's what he's done with these guys he's brought on this team.
Yeah, bad timing for DeMar DeRozan. You really kind of feel bad for him. I mean, a couple of years ago, he was all NBA. He's averaged well over 20 points a game in all 3 seasons with the Bulls. And even at guy who's going to turn 35 before the start of next season, he's still playing at a really high level. But because of these new rules with the first apron and the second apron and the hard cap, he can't get a legitimate contract out there. And it's bad for a guy that's 35.
Sign a trade.
Yeah, but see, the
but
problem
the Bulls don't want anything.
They don't want to take all that money back. They don't want to
take all that money back. That's the only way. I mean, because the Bulls could do a sign and trade, and because DeMar has been a good soldier here and a good person, they could do that. But that means they would have to take some bad contracts back, and that's no.
If you traded him to the Lakers, you'd have to take D'Angelo Russell back, and they don't have any minutes for him.
No,
you'd probably end up just having to cut him because you've got no run for him. Other guys on the Lakers you're really not that interested in. So that doesn't work. And I read something today, Barry Jackson, who writes for one of the Miami papers, who's very well respected in the league, said the Heat are sniffing around on DeMar.
Yeah.
They're trying to find a sign and trade. And I don't know if the Bulls are receptive to doing that at that level of salary.
Because that means you would probably have to take back a Duncan Robinson who makes a lot of money. It's tough because I know the Bulls want to do right by all these guys. I mean, they did that with Alex Caruso, trade him to a contender. And they want to do right by all these guys. DeMar is really good in the community, really good in the locker room, and they want to take care of him. But also, this is a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's just, how's this going to make us better? What impact is it going to have on us? Yeah, we can get you to this one, a sign and trade situation, but we put you in a better situation, we get into a worse situation. So that's where you got to kind of look at as well.
I know Casey Johnson's told us last week that the Bulls' first priority is trying to find a new home for Zach Lavine. The problem is 3 years left on that contract at huge dollars, and teams, because of the new CBA, are reluctant to take that on. There's been some talk that the Bulls would have to include a first-round draft.
Oh, stop!
And I'm 100% against that.
No.
Bring Zach in. Let him play half a season.
Yeah, here's what I said, Mark. Hey, if you're the Bulls, if you see that you're getting lowballed for him, bring him in, let him play this half a season trade deadline, let everybody see that he's healthy. Yeah. He's going to put up 25 points a game. He's going to be a high-scoring, dynamic player, and you trade him at the deadline if that's what you want to do with him. But the way these teams now are, it's like they know the Bulls are desperate to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. They know that. It's been ever since last year's trade deadline when the trade supposedly fell through with Detroit. Teams recognize the Bulls are desperate to get rid of this guy. So let's make him sweat a little bit. Well, if I'm AK and Mark, I'm like, listen, We're going to keep him, let him play through, let everybody see he's healthy. Let everybody see he's healthy. And then at trade deadline, if we still feel that's the way we want to go, then we move him in. And then maybe there's first-round picks tied to him because there's going to be some team that's toiling around the playoffs in that mid-level in the playoffs is going to need a dynamic scorer. And they're going to see that. They're going to see Zach Lavine, and they're going to like, yeah, we need to get him because maybe he's the piece that we need. Now you see Golden State now. Golden State didn't want to make the move when they had Chris Paul and Wiggins, and they declined that one. And then they cut Chris Paul, and now now you hear them, they want to trade. They're looking for, Zach Lavine now because Klay Thompson left. Klay Thompson left, got more money than what they were offering in Golden State, which really is amazing to me because Golden State took care of everybody else. And Klay Thompson couldn't help those injuries that happened to him. And when it was time to pay him, even though you're not going to pay him max dollars, you say, okay, Klay, what do you think is fair? You mean so much to this organization. You helped us win 4 titles. What do you think is fair? He got like $50 million to play with Dallas, and I think Golden State offered him like
only
40.
Offered him 2 years. They gave Draymond 4 years last summer.
Yes, and I just don't understand that. And Klay, and I said this about Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, I thought last year let the contract situation impact his game.
No question. Yeah.
And you could tell he just was not the same player. He was kind of pouting and moting around, and you could just tell that it impacted his game. Now he's going to go somewhere and play in Dallas with Luka, and you're going to see Klay Thompson, the old Klay Thompson. He's going to be in a situation where Luka's going to handle the ball, find an excellent shooter, and he's going to knock down jumpers all day long. It's going to help that team because that's when they struggled in the finals is they had no one that could knock down a shot when it counted the most, and he'll be that guy.
We're going to bring in Ricky O'Donnell just a couple of minutes before we do that with more Bulls talk. Just want to ask you quickly, Paul George going to Philadelphia, does that make them the second best team in the East, or do you still like New York over Philadelphia?
Oh, man. Well, it's got to be a healthy Embiid. I think that was the only thing that held them back last year was a healthy Embiid. He was not the same Embiid that he was in the beginning of the season because he was close to being an MVP caliber player when he went down with that knee injury. If he can stay healthy, that all depends on it. If he can stay healthy, Philadelphia is the team to come out of the Eastern Conference. I believe they beat Boston if he's healthy. You cannot come out there one-legged like he did last year. They're not going to win that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, too, because they have to build out the rest of the roster. They let so many guys go to preserve that cap space.
They got Drummond.
Yeah,
so they got their back.
Them.
They got because Embiid had his best year when they had Drummond because Doc Rivers was able to sit him down the whole third quarter and allow Drummond to go out there and play. So that's a great backup. Now they've got to go in and fill in the pieces. Oubre's re-signing with them. He's going to re-sign with them, and some of their key players are back. Paul George is going to give them a dynamic, legit number 2 guy. He's going to give him a guy that you can put the ball in his hands in the quarters, and he's going to be able to make something happen. He's still a very good defensive player. Tobias Harris, to me, like he was a legit.
He went to Detroit for big money.
Yeah,
wow.
But listen, he's a guy on that team. He was forced to be the 3rd option. He's really like the 5th option, okay? Paul George is a legit 1A to 1B situation. So you've already upgraded at that position. You got more athletic. You got a better shooter. You got a guy with a killer mindset, and that's going to help them. And don't forget Maxey, who got the most improved player last year. Shouldn't have got the most improved player because he's already been improved, so he didn't need it. Okay, that should have been Coby's award. But he's going to be a year older and a year better. That's 3 legitimate star players, all-star caliber players. They're going to be a team to watch out for.
Everybody talks about the West. The East is kind of sneaking up, too, when you look at teams like Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana. We haven't even talked about Milwaukee. You're going to get a better Damian Lillard next year. So the East is going to be loaded up top.
Orlando, to me, is going to be the next Oklahoma City team. They're going to be the team, I think, next year that takes that huge jump, and you're going, wow. We saw this last year when they were in the playoffs, and now they've tasted what the playoffs are all about. Their young players have tasted it, and now they want more. And I see them taking that same leap in the Eastern Conference as Oklahoma did in the Western Conference.
All right, more Bulls talk coming up with Ricky O'Donnell, but first we want to tell you about our good friend, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. He'll treat you like royalty, take care of all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. Our favorite nationwide agent, the phone number 847-825-4783. And the jingle, always on point.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Not again.
Nationwide. Ladies, please don't throw bras up here. No bras. Nationwide is on your side.
Man.
I got him, America.
He really didn't miss me.
I got him.
I
I got him. Sorry, Tito. Sorry.
At
This is
least
Michael Solo,
I had a
baby.
tissue right over here. It's okay.
We're going to try to cool off the room now. And Ricky O'Donnell next on Give Me the Hot Sauce.
Let's do it, Ricky.
It is a command performance by our guy, Ricky O'Donnell. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago previewing the NBA draft, and he was so good on the show. Stacey was so impressed. Stacey said, we got to get my guy Ricky back on. So,
Yes, sir.
Stacey, start us off. What's the first thing you want to talk about, Ricky?
Rick, welcome back to the show. I tell you what, we had the kind of similar opinions about certain things that the Bulls should have done, and they pretty much answered some of the questions that I had as far as, like, I know I've been arguing with people on Twitter in the last couple of days about the youth movement the Bulls are going into. My argument with people is that you can build your team through the draft if it's a good draft. This last draft was considered not really a good draft. There were some good players in it, but it wasn't a good draft. We got a good pick in our guy. But at the same time, the Bulls are getting guys off rosters that are 22, 23 years old, that have career starts, that have played in this, played meaningful minutes, and they're being able to get those kind of guys on their team, which is kind of offsetting a complete rebuild. Do you feel that's what they're doing?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it really all comes down to Demar, right? And it seems like Demar is not going to be on the Bulls next year. He's going to be somewhere else. And when that happens, the Bulls are going to be a significantly worse team without Alex Caruso, without DeMar DeRozan, probably without all the clutch luck they had last year too, which added about 10 more wins to the team. But at the same time, I do wonder, it's not a coincidence that when the Bulls are trying to rebuild, they pick number 7. It seems like they never really go all in on the tank. It seems like when they're trying to compete, they never really want to pay enough to compete at the top of the league. So I think, you're looking at what I would call more of a soft reset this year than a hard tank. I look around the league and I think, the Bulls are not going to be worse than the Pistons. They're not going to be worse than the Wizards. They're not going to be worse than the Nets. Who knows about the Hornets and the Raptors? And that's just the East. And then you look in the West and, you expect the Spurs to be better because Wembanyama is so great, but they haven't done anything this offseason. It seems like they want to get in the Cooper flag sweepstakes as well. And then who knows what the Jazz do with Markkanen. So I look around and I think the Bulls seem to be attempting to protect their 2025 draft pick, owed top 10 protected to the Spurs next year. And it's true that, regardless of what happens, you still need to get really lucky in the draft lottery. The Pistons won 14 games last year and they picked 5th. So, even if they're not going to be the worst team, you can still get lucky, jump up to the top. But I don't really look at this as an outright tank, even if DeRozan leaves, because you're going to add Zach Lavine, who, for all of his flaws, still a very, very good NBA player. Josh Giddey's got a lot of NBA experience. Coby and Io are going to be another year older, another year better. Jalen Smith will give him a new dimension, a real stretch 5. Instead of the fake one they've had the last few seasons. So I don't expect the Bulls to be terrible next year. I think, they won 39 games without DeMar and Caruso. They'll probably win 29, but we'll see where that really puts them in a league that I think is going to be racing to the bottom because Cooper Flag, he's that good, man. He's going to be the first pick. There's some talent beyond him in that 2025 draft for sure, but he's the prize. And I think that, there's going to be a lot of teams all in to tank, and I don't think the Bulls are quite there yet, despite losing a lot of very good players this offseason.
If you're not watching the show on YouTube, and you really should be, because Ricky's kind enough to join us from his home, and I'm a little bit distracted by that women's dress over your right shoulder. What's the story? What's going on at home, Ricky? You like to do things in your spare time we don't know about? What's going on?
I'm in my office that my wife uses.
Oh, okay.
Closet as well. So.
Wow. Well, just leave it up to Mark to ask a question like that.
No, I mean that dress is over your shoulder. And I'm just like,
listen, Ricky, I knew your wife was probably messing with some clothes back there. We could have avoided that question, Mark. Wow. Ricky, if you don't want to come on anymore. If you don't want to come on anymore, don't.
It'd be a lot more politely than if Whispers would ask.
If Mark is not here, if Mark is not here, you can come back on. Wow, Mark. Wow.
Well, man, I wasn't a 1992 NBA champion, so I don't have a fan. See,
Man, Mark, you like Timmy Whispers now.
No, I knew Timmy was thinking it.
Oh,
so
I
had
was
to beat
there.
him
I
to
was,
the
I
punch.
was, I was waiting for.
Ask the
time.
question, man.
All right. I saw you on WGN last night, did a great job on television, and you were talking about Jalen Smith, and you were saying that you don't really see him at all as a great defensive help, not a classic rim protector. But let's face it, this team needs some three-point shooting, and he hit 42% on, meager attempts, albeit, but he's a guy that can shoot the ball from distance and maybe give them a different component to their offense.
So I like the Jalen Smith signing. They obviously needed a young big in the room. It seems like they got young talent at every other position besides with the bigs. So I thought, Jalen Smith was a guy who you looked at this free agent market. You needed a young big with some athleticism. You needed a big who could shoot, and he fit that bill. Now, I do think that this sort of comes back to the Giddey trade. And when you're starting this rebuild with a pretty fresh slate, you take on Giddey, and Giddey has so many flaws as a player. And because Giddey cannot shoot at all and has to play on the ball, well, guess what? There's only so many spots for non-shooters in today's NBA. So now you immediately need to have a stretch five because Giddey can't shoot. And so now you need to take someone like Jalen Smith, who, in my opinion, I don't think he's a great player, but I think he's got some upside. I'm glad they signed him. I think it was a good signing. But, you took him over someone like Goga Bitadze in Orlando, who I think is more of a traditional five. He does big man stuff, right?
Yes.
He rebounds, he blocks shots, he's tough. Whereas Jalen Smith, he doesn't really do a lot of the interior dirty work that you ideally like a big man to do. So this is what Arturas does, man. He likes perimeter players who can't shoot and bigs who can't play defense.
Oh,
when
no.
that happens, it takes a very particular mix to actually make the pieces work. Now, Arturas found that mix originally when he got Lonzo and Caruso around DeRozan. DeRozan player, and he was so good for the Bulls for 3 straight years. It kind of breaks my heart that it looks like he's getting squeezed out of the deal he deserves in free agency because he outperformed that contract with the Bulls that everyone said was an overpay at the time. $27 million a year. It seems like he's probably going to get his salary cut in half for next year wherever he's playing. That's a tough break for DeMar. But at the same time, DeMar, for as good as he is, he's a no 3, no D guy. And he's maxed out in every other aspect of the game, but he still has some team building limitations. So that's why I'm why are the Bulls pushing their chips in for Josh Giddey, who's also a no 3, no D guy, immediately presents so many complications to your future team building. While he does have some skills, he's been a productive player, 21 years old, great passer, great positional size. He rebounds, he does some stuff. He's a pretty good player. I think he's going to put up good numbers for the Bulls this year. I really do. But if you're talking about building this thing long term, it's okay, there's only so many spots for non-shooters. I don't think you can reasonably project Giddey to make a big improvement as a shooter. So now you got to take someone like Jalen Smith. And I like Jalen Smith. I think he was a good signing, but the guy could not get on the floor in the playoffs. Maybe not a concern for the Bulls. They're not going to be playing playoff games in the near future, it seems like. But, it kind of just goes back to Giddey. They got Jalen Smith because they got Giddey. And I just wonder, how does that complicate their long-term team building paths around Josh Giddey in the future?
Well, one of the things that I've been watching and really watching closely is the Zach Lavine situation. It just seems like teams are playing hardball with the Bulls, not giving them what they want for him. If I'm AK and Mark Eversley, my philosophy is I'm keeping him. I'm keeping him and let him show everybody he's healthy. Let everybody see what because he's going to put up 24, 25 points a game on this team next year. And then if you want to revisit trade, his trade value at the midway point of the season, the trade deadline, then you do it then. Because it doesn't make any sense because you hear all this stuff, Ricky, is that, their Bulls are going to attach a first-round pick to get rid of the guy. That doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to hold on to as many first-round picks as you can get and then revisit the trade for him later on when he shows everybody he's healthy. And there's going to be a team out there at trade deadline that sees Zach Lavine as a missing piece that can help them get further in the playoffs.
I totally agree with you, Stacey. I think, if you can't get rid of him now, definitely the worst case scenario would be to attach assets to trade him. Absolutely cannot do that in any scenario. So if you got to bring Zach back, that's cool with me. I think Zach Lavine's a really good player. And I think
too.
If you get the Zach Lavine from 22-23, I kind of think he's worth the money. Like, it's tough because they signed him to that contract under the old CBA, which wasn't as punitive for going deep into the luxury tax with these super high payrolls. Now it's a different ball game, and now you got all these billionaires crying poor. They can't re-sign their own guys. We might get a draft pick frozen 5 years from now. We can't sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I don't know. It's kind of a loser mentality to me. But at the end of the day, you still have a lot of teams that are going to be competing to win, that view the league as being wide open in terms of the championship picture. And somebody like Lavine still fits in a lot of different places because he can play off the ball with volume three-point shooting. He's always been a very good three-point shooter. And he can give you some rim pressure. Still only 29 years old. As the cap rises, as the years on his contract get less and less, I do think there's going to be a market for Zach eventually. And so I'm totally fine with the Bulls bringing back Zach. I don't think they should be desperate to get rid of him. The only way they should be feeling desperation to get rid of him is if they want to bring back DeMar, because they can't really bring back DeMar right now, given their salary constraints. But to me, you can't bring back DeMar. You're going to lose your draft pick. And, Lavine, we've already seen, we have many examples from the past that, like, even if you're trying to protect this pick and not win a lot of games, Zach Lavine's not really going to influence winning at a super high level. So I'm fine bringing him back. I think he's a good player. He's 29 years old, right in the smack dab of his prime. So I think if Zach could just stay healthy, he can ball out. The only question I want to know is, does Zach actually want to be here? And is this going to feel like a hostage situation with Zach where he would like to be anywhere else but Chicago? And instead, nobody wants him. If that's the case, he should have all the motivation he needs to have a good year so that he can open up, interest from other teams. But yeah, it's kind of a tough situation for Zach heading into the year. Just do not attach assets to trade him. That would be the worst case scenario.
And I think that they got to come if that's the route that they go with him and bring him back. There's got to be a meeting of the minds, and they've got to sit down and they've got to say Billy's got to sit down with him, and they've got to try to hash out whatever disagreement or whatever made him feel the way he felt, and try to iron that out for this season and just say, let's just focus on this year. And if I'm Billy Donovan, I'm telling him, listen, you saw what happened this summer. We won the movie. You wanted to be moved. Nothing happened. No one wanted to give up anything for you. But this is your opportunity to show people that you're healthy. This is an opportunity to show people what kind of player you are. That means you got to commit to playing on both ends of the floor, defense and offense, and give effort every single night. And if you can do that, your value will rise higher than it was this summer. That's what I would tell him.
I totally agree. And the other thing I would do is say, you got Jalen Smith in here. Look what Tyrese Halliburton did for Jalen Smith. Earned him a lot of money, got his reputation way up. And I would say we're playing like Indiana this year with Josh Giddey. Like, if we're building this team around Josh Giddey or with Josh Giddey in mind, you better crank up that tempo. I mean, you could be having a starting lineup with Coby, Zach, Giddey, and then Vuk and Pat. To me, I mean, you might as well play fast, rip threes. Defense may or may not be optional, but I think Lavine's going to have some motivation to defend. You're going to have a lot of Jalen Smith as a stretch five. He'll probably play, a pretty sizable role for the team this year, I would think. And yeah, I think, crank up the pace and really see if Zach can put up a bunch of points, hit a bunch of threes, and maybe reopen that trade market for you at the deadline.
Hey, let's go back to the draft. Ricky is outstanding covering the NBA draft. Make sure you follow him at SB Nation. He's already got his 2025 mock draft out for you to check out. It's supposed to be one of the best drafts in a long time. But when we were going over the possibilities for the Bulls at 11, we kind of dismissed the idea that they could get the local kid, Matas Buzelis, and he fell to 11. Detroit kind of jumped for one of the guys you thought might be for the Bulls at 11, and Ron Holland. But they get Buzelis, who's a 6'9", 6'10" power forward who needs to get in the weight room, needs development time, but they could have a really good player in a couple of years. They're right there.
Yeah, I like Buzelis. I was happy with the pick. I was very relieved the Bulls didn't do anything weird and try to grab Terrence Shannon at 11 or Ryan Dunn. Buzelis, it was just a sensible move. Take the guy who falls, best player available. Thought that was a totally normal and acceptable pick by the Bulls, so I was happy with that. I do think he's pretty raw. I watched a lot of G League Ignite this year. I would not recommend anyone going back to watch that film because that team was an absolute disgrace. Just a horrible team context for all those guys to play in. But Buzelis has got skills, man. I mean, you can't find 6'10" guys who are that comfortable on the perimeter. And I expected Buzelis to be a pretty poor defensive player, but he was like pretty tough. Showed surprising toughness defensively with the Ignite. So I think it's going to take a bit because, like you said, Buzelis, He's 6'10". He's 197 pounds.
Right.
You got to get him some of that Stacey King hot sauce.
Yeah.
Got to beat him up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's too skinny, but it's going to take him a few years, right? So I think that's cool for the Bulls. They are rebuilding anyway. Buzelis will hopefully get a lot of reps this year. He won't be in like a high pressure environment to produce right away. I think that's a very good scenario for him. And yeah, long term, Buzelis, my thing with him is there's no way he's going to be a good NBA player if he's this bad of a shooter long term. But I look at his shot and I don't think it's broken. Like, yes, he hit 26% of his threes. Yes, he hit under 70% of his free throws. That's very scary. But the guy shot the lights out at the high school level at Sunrise Christian. I went back, watched a couple of those games, in my lead up to draft coverage. He shoots confidently. He shoots with versatility. He's not a hesitant shooter. And to me, that's the most important thing. Like, as long as you're willing to get him up and as long as your form doesn't look totally broken, I think Peter Patton will do some wonders for him. And I think Buzelis is going to shoot long term. And if he shoots, he's going to be a pretty good player as long as his body can put on muscle and that he's able to like play with more power. Because there's some guys who just can't put on strength. They don't have the frame for it. I think Buzelis probably will be able to, but it looks like he has narrow shoulders. He's very skinny in general, obviously. So those are the two swing factors, the shooting, the strength development. But if those come around, I think Buzelis is going to be a good player. He was a good pick by the Bulls regardless, and I'm excited to watch him this year.
I'll tell you what, I'm a big Patrick Williams fan, and I know a lot of people think that the Bulls overpaid him to stay. I think it was a good pickup. I think, now knowing they're going into this youth movement per se, he's going to get many opportunities that he didn't get when the, all-star caliber players were here. What do you think about that signing, Rick?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting on a number of levels. I'm very glad they retained Pat. I think losing him would have been a disaster as you're pivoting to this rebuild. You got to keep your guys. I think they may have been able to get him a little bit cheaper, but kind of who cares? Like, Obi Toppin got 15, Pat gets 18. I look at Toppin, he's probably been more productive than Pat. He's also 3.5 years older. He's a worse defender. He's a worse three-point shooter. So Pat has the skill set you want for a role player. What worries me about this, though, is that everyone's going to be expecting Pat to take this big leap next year. Oh, it's all set up for Pat now. DeMar's gone. Now it's Pat. He gets a bigger offensive opportunity. Well, the issue is that Pat's hurt. He's got a really weird injury with his foot, a broken navicular bone. That is not a normal NBA injury. I believe TJ Warren had the same injury, and it cost him 2 years.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Pat to produce next year, but he can't work on his game or his body right. So what's he doing this offseason? He's basically just recovering. I haven't really heard any updates on Pat and his health. I think health pending, if he can get back to being 100% healthy, it was a good signing. Maybe you could have got him a little bit cheaper. I don't really care because, whatever. I mean, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference with how much the salary cap's going up. 15, 18, who cares? So I'm excited Pat's back. I want to see what he can do with more offensive opportunity. The reason I like Patrick Williams, I think he's a very good defensive forward, and I think he can hit an open three-pointer. Now, I would like to see him rebound a little bit more. Just no excuse to be such a bad rebounder with his physical gifts. And then, let's see what he could do offensively with the ball in his hands. Now that DeMar is likely going to be gone, I want to see him attack the basket with a little more force. I want to see him get to the foul line more. Maybe he learned a few mid-range tricks from DeMar too. So I'm excited for Pat. I'm excited for his growth, but it's going to be tough for him to hit the ground running this year, given that he missed the whole offseason with this injury.
Hey, let's zoom out a little bit. We've seen the draft. We've seen the early stages of free agency. Paul George, of course, going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Klay Thompson to Dallas. I think one of the underrated signings, Isaiah Hartenstein, going to Oklahoma City with Caruso. They were number one seed in the West last year. Now you add two defensive stoppers at important positions. Oklahoma City could be ready to make a big jump. Outside of the Thunder, who else do you think really helped themselves in free agency in the draft this year?
Yeah, I think the Thunder are the favorites in the West heading into the season. So we'll see if they could do it. The West is loaded. But I loved the moves the Thunder made. It's going to be so fun to watch Caruso there in a winning environment. Caruso is just meant to be playing games deep in the playoffs. So that'll be fun. I like what the Magic did with KCP. KCP is not going to change your life, but they needed shooting. They've been one of the worst shooting teams in the league the last couple of years in terms of volume and percentage. Well, KCP is just money on catch and shoot threes. So he'll give you spacing. And then defensively, you got KCP and Suggs in the backcourt. Like, that is locked down around Franz, around Wendell. You got Jonathan Isaac, who might be maybe the best individual defender in the league. I think.
Yes.
He's a freak defensively.
I think they just re-signed him.
They just re-signed him today. Yeah. He got the same contract as Pat.
They just re-signed him.
5 years. So, yeah, I like what Orlando did. Like, they probably need more shooting. They could probably use a guard who could hit pull-ups. I've been thinking they really should have thrown an offer sheet at Coby last year. Like, he would have been so good for them. I'm glad they didn't as a Bulls fan, but they still need like a shifty guard who could hit pull-ups. They don't have that right now, but you're running your offense through Paolo and Franz. You got more spacing with KCP. So I like Orlando, and I look at their roster right now. They got a lot of mid-sized salaries that are good to combine in a trade. So I think, I don't know if it's going to be Darius Garland. I don't know if it's going to be someone else down the line, but they're going to be primed to make a big move for a trade, I think. Love Paolo and Franz. So I really like what Orlando did as well with the KCP signing.
Well, speaking of Coby took a huge jump last year. Should have been most improved player. Where do you see him now with all the roster change? And now basically he falls into that role now as one of the go-to guys now. It's the ball's going to be in his hands. He's going to be probably moved to the 2-guard position if they don't bring Zach back. What do you envision him this year? What step do you see him taking this year? Do you see all-star maybe possibility?
Sure. Yeah, why not? I think that Giddey's going to get him a lot of good shots. As much as I'm skeptical of Giddey's utility on a good team, I think that, this year when the team is not going to be like maxed out to try to like make a playoff run, I think that Coby's going to put up huge numbers. Giddey's going to get him good shots. They're going to play fast. And, 25 this year. Like, this should be his prime. He improved so much last year that, like, why would you cap his development? Say that, like, he's not going to continue to improve. I think he can absolutely get better.
Yeah.
He can continue to get stronger. He can get, just like more offensive versatility, I think, in terms of like his shot and how he gets his shot. And like I said, I think Giddey will aid him there. So I'm pumped about Coby. I think Coby could take a big leap. What did he average last year? About 19 points a game.
19.
Above average shooting efficiency. So, yeah, I mean, let's pick that up, especially if they play faster. I could see him pushing towards 23, 24 points a game. And I'm just interested in, if Zach is back, which I think is the likely scenario. Those two guys have never really complemented each other well because they're like kind of got similar games. They overlap a bit in terms of skill set. So I want to see how those guys can coexist. Coby, he's such a team player, though. That's what I really like about Coby. In addition to being like a useful player with his ability to play on or off the ball, high volume shooter, great vibes guy as well, like around the team in the locker room. So I think that Coby's, he could have another big leap this year in him, and I wouldn't be shocked if he made an all-star run. It's tough in the East because there's a lot of good guards, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Hey, before we let you go, we got to give Whispers a shot. You got anything for Ricky tonight?
Yeah, there's one question, Ricky, that it never really comes up in these discussions is the chemistry of teams. You see these teams that suddenly rise up, and you go back a couple of years ago when the Bulls put together this team that was first in the East till the injuries started hitting. We got laughed at by Friedel, and you had a dinner. Did you ever collect your dinner on that?
No, I'm glad you reminded me. I'm going to be calling Slick Nick for my dinner.
So Nick Friedel laughed at us for saying we're looking at a 50-win team, and we just did that based on chemistry. And then you don't hear about that much anymore. Like, this is a winning team based on who they put together. And sometimes you wonder if they look at these moves here, these young guys, they do have some experience. Is there a chance or some chemistry here? We're looking at a 40-some win team with the Bulls.
I don't think so, because they won 39 last year. Best players.
Go back in your hole, Whispers. Come on now.
He's like a groundhog. Go back in your hole there,
hey,
buddy.
we got a lot of Bulls listeners. I wanted that shred of hope, but
let's say this, their chemistry in the future is going to be led by Io and Coby, Matas and Pat. And I think that, Io and Coby are just great culture guys. Like, can Io be the Bulls Udonis Haslem, and can we just keep him for like 20 years? And he can always be there because I feel like he's a good presence for the team, a good culture guy. Coby seems to have a great mentality. Anytime, you see him interviewed, anytime I've spoke with him. And yeah, the future of the team chemistry will be determined by those four guys, and we'll see how everyone else fits in around them. I think that they had great chemistry for a while with Lonzo and with Caruso. Those were very good culture setters. I think they lost some of that without Lonzo. And so, this year to me isn't about maximizing wins. It's seeing development, seeing the young guys improve, trying to add another premium piece in the 2025 draft. If not Cooper Flag, I want Dylan Harper. Give me Ron Harper's kid. One of my favorite Bulls ever, Ron Harper. I think Ron Harper, best Bulls free agent signing ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's in the mix too, but like Ron Harper was the man. So give me Dylan Harper. Then in the 26th draft, give me Carlos Boozer's son, Cameron, who is the second best prospect in the world right now behind Cooper Flag. Cameron Boozer is a stud.
Yeah, he's
my
legit.
Hot take right here. My hot take is that the 26th draft is better than the 25 draft.
Oh, wow.
You got two legit number one overall picks in that 26th draft with Cameron Boozer and AJ DeBonsa, two American prospects who are absolutely phenomenal. We'll see how the international class develops in addition to those guys. But yeah, I think the Bulls are probably looking at a 2-year soft reset here. They should have traded some of these guys and gotten more picks and gotten a surplus of assets to, do this rebuild moving forward. So they're going to have to get lucky. But at the end of the day, I still think it's a good move for the Bulls. And, I'm excited to watch some young guys get a bigger opportunity this year.
One more question. I don't think you're going to see a repeat champion in the NBA in the next few years. I just don't. I think you saw Denver. Denver, to me, I think if Denver plays Boston, I think Denver wins that series. I just do. I don't think you're going to see a repeat champion. I think it's going to be one of those things the next 5 years is going to be somebody different every season. Boston, people think Boston has the roster to do that. I just don't see it. What do you think?
Boston's real good. I'm a Celtics hater. Celtics hater. Can't stand the Boston media mafia. That's why we need good podcasts like the Gimme the Hot Sauce. But,
thank you.
Here's the thing with the Celtics. White, he's giving away money.
Yeah.
He signed with them. $125 million for 4 years.
He's selling the team. He didn't care.
Yeah, he's selling the team.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the Celtics are really good. I don't think they're unbeatable because against the elite teams, they're not going to have the best player on the floor. But, I mean, Denver got worse, and they're not spending enough money to, maximize Jokic. So I totally agree with you. Denver would have beat Boston in the series, but now Denver's worse. So now I'm I don't know. I think you're possibly right, though. It's very hard to go back-to-back. The Spurs never went back-to-back when they were a dynasty with Tim Duncan. I think OKC is coming. I think the Mavs are going to be pretty good again. Wembanyama is looming. And then, the Sixers and the Knicks.
Yeah.
I don't know if they made perfect moves. They still got question marks, but man, you got to respect how hard they went. They put their money where their mouth is and they said, we're doing everything we can to take out the Celtics. So if the Celtics play the Sixers, the best player on the floor is Embiid, in my opinion.
Yes.
If the Celtics play the Knicks, the Celtics still have the best player, but it's possible the Knicks can compete with them in terms of the 5 best. So it's going to be tough for the Celtics. The fact that they won the title without Porzingis barely playing is pretty impressive to me. I want to say you're right, Stacey. I hope you're right. I'll say right now my pick will be OKC. I'll pick OKC to win the title. So it's tough to go back-to-back. Give me the Thunder this year. The Celtics got a good chance, but yeah, I think this is the era of the NBA, especially with this new CBA. The league wants parity. They have worked to achieve parity. And I think that, what has been 6 years, 6 different champions or something like that. I would expect more of the same moving forward, but Celtics they're damn good.
Yeah, and Bulls fans will be watching Oklahoma City with one of our favorites, Alex Caruso, playing out there. They're in the other conference, so why not root for the Thunder? Hey, Ricky, thanks a lot for joining us the second time in 3 weeks. We appreciate all your insight. We even got a thumbnail on the 25 and 26 draft, so a full-service cleaning here today. We appreciate it very much, Ricky.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Ricky O'Donnell, our guest on Gimme the Hot Sauce. We'll tell you what we're watching and some other business coming up when we continue on the show. Our thanks to Ricky O'Donnell for joining us, giving us some insight on what the Bulls are doing in the offseason and giving us a sneak peek at the 25 and 26 NBA drafts. And this is during the third segment, we'd like to take some of the questions from our viewers and listeners. We got one from ImaSpookyKitty.
SpookyKitty.
He says, we should have traded DeMar when he was having that legendary season. I mentioned he made second-team All-NBA in his first year with the Bulls. His playing style never really elevated the team. I would beg to disagree, and I'm sure Stacey feels similar.
Oh, definitely disagree. The 3 years he's here, he's one of the best players in the NBA. So when a lot of people thought he was done and washed up, made the All-Star team, showed you that he's still an elite scorer at this game, had one of the best mid-range games, one of the best clutch players. I mean, come on now. I don't like that question too much.
I think his point was that, obviously when Lonzo was here, the Bulls were leading the East halfway through that first season that he was here. But then once Lonzo went out, the team chemistry kind of dissolved a little bit, and they barely got into the play-in. It didn't really impact winning, even though he's putting up numbers.
Well, you lose a dynamic player like Lonzo. It's like having three players. He's 6'6". People don't remember Lonzo was the second leading rebounder on the team at the point guard position. He led the team in assists. He was either 1 or 2 in blocked shots at the point guard position. So that's saying that guy had a huge impact on this team's success. He got Zach easier shots. He got DeMar easier shots. The Bulls were much more efficient running in transition. And when you take that element out of your lineup, now you become a slow team. You become more of an isolation team. And that's probably really hurt the Bulls more than anything, is that transition that Lonzo brought to the game became more isolation. And you saw more DeMar having to, as Billy said, hey, in order for us to win, we got to put the ball in this guy's hands and let him go to work. And that's what they did.
Also heard from our buddy PeteDaSignGod. He, of course, is responsible for all these great banners behind us here, watching on YouTube. And he says that he told Stacey that his autograph is worth more than Zach's trade value at this point.
Wow, that's uncalled
for,
Pete.
A shot from the peanut gallery.
Hey, Pete, come on, Pete. Pete, first of all.
Get the punches up, Tyson.
Hey, listen. Pete, come on, stop shooting strays at my boy Zach, man. Come on, listen. For all you Zach haters out there, listen, I'm not one of them, okay? Listen, Zach can play. Zach is a top 20 player in this league. Should he be higher than top 20? I think he should. I think if he focused on defense and became a legit two-way player, there's no reason why Zach Lavine can't average 2.5 steals a game and be up top 5, top 10 in steals. It's effort, energy, and going out there to do that. And if I'm Billy Donovan, if they bring him back, if the Bulls bring Zach back, that's something that you're going to have to implore for him to do. You're going to have to say, look, we saw what the summer did. No teams wanted you. Okay, I make it seem so desperate, like nobody wanted you. They didn't want to trade you for a bag of Doritos, okay? Now you got a chance to come in here. You got to show everybody you're healthy, number one, that your foot is healed. We know you can score 25 points a game, but show teams you can do other things. You can make teammates better. You can defend and guard anybody on the floor. And if you do that, your trade value is going to go off the roof, and you're going to be able to go where you want to go.
But let me ask you this. You played with so many great players in your college and pro careers. Some guys just won't change no matter what. I mean, like Carlos Boozer would always go to his left. And you could tell him, Carlos, they're playing to the left, go right. He's still going to go to his left. Some guys just can't get out of their comfort zone.
Well, if you saw his trade value, he really paid attention to the trade value this year, and where no one was wanting him and all the stuff that was coming out of it about him, he'll change up a little bit. He has to, because Zach is too good of a player and too good of an athlete. When I tell people that he's got that same kind of athleticism as MJ has. I'm not saying he's MJ player. I'm not saying he's got MJ mentality. I'm saying as an athlete, he is top notch. He's still one of the top 10 best athletes in the game today at 29 years old. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's got, I personally think Zach's at his best when he's playing more like Klay Thompson, where he's coming off screens, he's catching and shooting, instead of taking those kind of crazy shots that he takes.
He doesn't see himself that way.
But he needs to start seeing them, especially this late in his career. People are labeling Zach as not a winner. He's not a winning player. That's all you keep hearing about Zach. He's not a winning player. This is a team game. You can't just put that all on him. There's 11 other guys with him on that team that he's been on. So you can't just say he's not a winning player. Maybe he doesn't make winning plays all the time, but that you can't label him as being a winning player. Put him in a situation in Golden State, I guarantee he's a winner. You put him in a situation with Denver, I guarantee you he's a winner, because he's around winning players. He's around a winning, system, and he will change his ways. Unfortunately, he's been on teams that have not been strong. In Minnesota, he had, it was him, Wiggins, and Towns, young kids, basically giving the keys to the car, didn't know how to drive. And so they were losing early. But you win, you get put in a winning organization. Mark, you know this. You get put in a winning organization, winning attitude. You walk in that building, everything's positive. You're gonna win.
Yeah, but you speaking of Minnesota, you play with J.R. Ryder. It's like telling him not to be crazy anymore.
Listen, Mark, there's sometimes I try to forget things, Mark. At my old age, I try to forget some of the things that I've done in my younger days. I'm going to tell you something. You go from, I tell young people this all the time. Listen, the grass ain't greener on the other side, okay? When I was a young player, America, I thought leaving a championship caliber team and going to go play on a team that wasn't winning, I'm going to get to play 30 minutes a night. I'm going to take as many shots as I want. It was great for like the first 2 weeks. But after a while, man, when you start getting beat by 25, 30, and you got the other team talking about you ain't got Black Jesus with you now. You ain't got the Black Cat. Where's Black Superman at now, King? And you got to hear this taunting, but you're still I'm getting 20, 25. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But you're getting your butt kicked every night. You got no chance to win. And it's bad. Let me tell you something, Mark. It's bad when you go out after a game and you go to a club and your team can't get into the club because they suck.
They make them stand in line.
They make them, America, they made them stand in line. They didn't make me stand in line. The bouncer, Stacey, come on in. How many you got? I hear somebody yelling, Stacey, King, where you at, man? Get us in the club. I'm looking around, I'm like, is that the Timberwolves? What are y'all doing in line, bro? Come on, man, y'all NBA players. No NBA players work. No NBA player wait in line. No. But when you lose, you're waiting in line. That's sad too, man. That's my little story right there. Oh, my goodness.
New phone. Who dis?
Yes.
Hey, Raymond Thornton asks, who should be the Bulls starting point guard, Cody or Giddey? He says, I hear Giddey, but it seems like it should be the guy who is the better athlete who can navigate the floor better. And I know that's how you feel about that.
No, Giddey should be the point guard. Giddey is in my opinion. Listen, I've always said this about Coby. Coby can play point guard. His position is two guard. He can let him score the basketball. He play that Zach Lavine role. There's not a lot of difference between him and Zach except for the athleticism. Zach is a high level athlete, but Coby, as far as scoring and the way he can score just as good as Zach can. And so I would move him to the 2. I put Giddey as my point guard because he's the guy that's going to struggle with his own shooting, but he's going to be the guy to control the pace because he wants to get the ball off the glass and push it. And you got Coby running on the wing. You have Patrick Williams. You have all these guys running. The Bulls are going to be much more efficient, I think, in transition with this younger team. And plus, Billy's going to have a lot of opportunities to press more, to trap more, to just turn these guys loose because you're not expected to win. You're not expecting to win anything, but you can expect to play hard and have some fun and let people enjoy watching this young team develop and grow into something special.
I see by the rundown that our guy D put together. You guys want to talk about the UFC card this weekend?
Oh.
Prayer.
Go ahead, man. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it, Tim. This is your big time.
Yeah, come on.
No, it was kind of disappointing. I mean, you normally wouldn't lose, but went down. You're a guy.
Well, Pierre,
you put money on him, didn't you?
Well, Pierre, the Pierre guy was good. The Alex Pereira, he was good. That dude, I'm telling you right now, man, that dude might be there. That dude right there, he is a machine. A machine. He is dismantling everybody. He's going to be the first guy that win 3 titles in 3 different weight classes. There's been guys that win 2. He's going to be the first one to win 3.
Was our guy right here at the end of the table, Connor,
but he never defended his title. This guy went from middleweight, won the middleweight title. Now he's gone to light heavyweight, and now he just demolished everybody in the light heavyweight situation. And until John Jones gets back, if I was him, I would go right to the heavyweight division, beat Tom Aspinall, beat him, get me the belt, win 3, and then when John Jones comes back, say, I'm going back down to lightweight. I don't want to fight this guy. Just take
the John Jones is a Krispy Kreme. He's putting on some weight.
I don't care, but he can fight, though. Ain't nobody beating that dude. Ain't nobody beating John Jones, man. John Jones is going to go down as the greatest UFC fighter in the history of UFC. Mm-hmm. Nobody's beating that. He has not lost a fight at all. He got disqualified. He's lost 1 fight, and that was disqualification because he hit somebody in the back of the head with an elbow. But now that particular blow is legal now. So they really should go back and scrap that loss. That dude's undefeated. That dude is a bad man.
You guys know what kind of money these guys make? Because I'm always amazed. Every weekend, there's a new fight card, and guys are fighting over and over and over again. It can't be good for your long-term health.
If you're not one of the main guys, if you're one of the main guys that like fights once every 6 months, once every year, those guys are making the big money. The champion guys are making the big money. The guys that you see repeat, if they don't take damage in UFC 301, they're coming back 302. Okay, they have to fight a lot more, and it's tough on those guys. They have no insurance. I'm surprised Then we talked to Curtis Blades, when he was on our show a couple of years ago, is that like they don't have any insurance. They have nothing to protect themselves, and have a union. But it would take the superstar players to buy into that and to really facilitate that. The Connors, the John Joneses of the world, because these guys can say we're going to strike and sit out until we get better pay or better, coverage. But Dana White say, "Oh, cool, we'll just go bring in some other people."
I know it's a rough way to make.
But you can't replace a Connor. You can't replace a John Jones.
Right.
You can't replace a,
They
Izzy.
negotiate their own deal.
Yeah.
But typically you're talking about like $300,000 for a fight.
See, look at
If
that.
you're the
Pound
top
for
of the
pound
card.
rankings right now. Okay. Do you see my man Alex? He's number 2. Oh, Makhachev Islam.
Yeah.
He really shouldn't be one. John Jones should be number 1.
Well, he's just a default one at this point.
Yeah, he shouldn't be number 1.
Look at the abs they put on
It's
Jones.
according to ESPN's.
That was
rankings.
really nice of him.
Hey, listen, you
That's
stop talking
marketing.
about John Jones, okay? You stop talking. He's a little. Look, John Jones had to put some weight on to go to heavyweight.
Well, yeah.
Okay, but
did.
yeah,
He
John
got it
Jones. John Jones legit. Tell you.
I know he's legit. I'm not getting near him.
I met John Jones before he really came up. He was just coming up. He just won his first fight. He choked out Makita, the guy, the Dragon, choked him out. We saw him in San Antonio.
Leota.
Saw him in Miami. Big dude, like 6'4", like he's a big dude, tall. He's a tall guy. But now he's had to put on extra weight to play in the heavyweight division because he wanted to fight Ngannou. Ngannou was the main guy, but Ngannou and the UFC couldn't come to terms to make that fight happen. So Ngannou left and went to the rival company because he got paid more money.
Mm-hmm.
And
They also
now
went boxing.
his credibility's gone down after he got knocked out in 10 seconds in a boxing match.
Oof.
Almost
Yeah.
got decapitated by Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
Woo! But I'm still a UFC fan. I like the fighting. I like the way they fight. Boxing needs to catch up. Boxing needs to start doing like they used to do, put the best fighters against the best fighters. They're not doing that right now, and it's really hurt the sport. And UFC is probably the number one, sport as far as combat sports is concerned.
Yeah, every weekend you can catch it on ESPN, and they have just brutal fights
Yeah.
every week. Hey, time for one of our favorite segments. What are we watching? I'll kick us off this week. One of the shows that really caught on in the streaming realm was The Bear. Jeremy Allen White, who played Lip in Shameless, is the head guy who took over a beef restaurant that he inherited from his brother who died and wanted to turn into a fine dining thing because he had gone to New York to study to be this culinary expert. And the show is just about the stress and the tension and the relationships between the people that are trying to make a go of this. And the first couple of seasons I thought were just outstanding. People say it's a really intense show. Sometimes it's hard to watch. You really got to get yourself in the mindset because there's so much angst amongst the crew there. The third season has just started. And one of the things about the streaming on Hulu, they give you every episode. So if you want to binge it, you can. It's 10 episodes every year. This year, they're trying so hard to make it super intense. I think they kind of missed the mark. The first episode, there's almost no dialogue. It's just them cooking in the kitchen and yelling.
Oh.
And it's like the whole thing is trying to create this like I mentioned, the word angst, the stress between the people that are working there, that it's almost too hard to watch. It's just uncomfortable. The characters nothing ever goes right, and they're trying to make a go of it. It's set in Chicago, so you got that kind of link there. But it's the first 2 seasons I thought were really good. Now it's kind of be like, how uncomfortable can we make the audience? And the answer is very.
You don't even want to go out and eat, do you?
No. So what do you got, Whispers?
I watched I was flying, so I watched the Carl Icahn documentary on HBO. So he's still working today. And
The Restless Billionaire.
80s.
I don't think I'd be restless.
I don't
if
think I'd
was
be
a
restless at all.
Yeah, he's
I'd be sleeping just fine.
he's one of the richest guys on the planet, and but he's the guy that they modeled Gordon Gekko after.
Right.
So all the lines like
Greed is
you want a
good.
friend, get a dog. Money never sleeps. These were all lines that Carl Icahn said.
Yeah.
And so they modeled him after him. And he's a real SOB when he goes after these companies. But he believes what he's done is a good thing. And it's interesting to watch because you do get kind of torn. Was he right or was he wrong in the way he was a corporate raider? And it's tough. I think sometimes he did a good thing. Sometimes, I don't know.
Stacey, what do you got?
Interesting.
Your Honor,
Oh yeah, Whispers and I watched that when it was on Showtime. Now it's made its way to Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Back in the 90s.
It's not back in the 90s. Shut the hell up. This is a
Bryan Cranston.
America. This is a awesome show. I'm telling you, from start to finish, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. There's something happening that's making you go, oh, you're just catching yourself like it's unbelievable. I didn't think it was going to be that good.
And it's something that could happen.
Yes.
Yes. It's believable.
It's very believable because people will do anything for their kids.
Exactly.
That's what it's about. What a father would do for his son to keep his son out of trouble. You need to watch it. I'm not going to give you any more of the plot. Yeah. But it is very realistic because as parents, we try to protect our kids and we'll do whatever we can to protect our kids. But how far will you go to protect your kids when you know that something happened, that they did something wrong? I told my kids, like, it's funny because I told my kids, like, I said, Dad, would you snitch on us if I murder someone? I said, hell yeah. They're like, you snitch on me? I go, hell yeah, I'd tell on you in a second. I'm not going to jail. I'm not going as accomplice. You shouldn't have done it. Well, I said, he said, what if it's self-defense? Oh, that's different.
Right.
But if you did something stupid and went out and killed somebody, I'm not gonna hide you and keep that evidence from people. No, you're going to jail. You're gonna turn yourself in. Be a man.
Well, I have one question for you guys since you both saw this. It takes place in New Orleans.
Yes.
Right.
But would it be more realistic if it took place in Chicago?
Or New York?
I think Chicago is a much better setting for this.
I like New Orleans, though.
But with the level of corruption and so forth,
I like
much more fitting for Chicago.
I like New Orleans because the mobster in this movie, there's not really a lot of mob in New Orleans, but there are mobs in New Orleans. There are big guys like the one in this show. I just like how the setup is because going to the 9th Ward in New Orleans is like going to the South Side of Chicago, going to Inglewood or something like that. I mean, it's very believable. And then how they have everybody's involved now. How Bryan Cranston got a lot of people involved trying to keep this story, his best friend. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of subplots to all this. And now I'm at the part where the mobster now is starting to put things together now. And the way he had to go about to do it to find out. I mean, listen, we always joke about, in horror movies, the black guy never lives. It's the same way in this show, too. Coffee Brown, R.I.P. Coffee Brown. That's all I'm going to say. R.I.P. Coffee Brown. They got coffee.
All three of us have seen it. Highly recommend it. It's now made its way to Netflix, so check it out. Called Your Honor. Mike waiting outside, ready to take you home?
Yeah, Mike's out there. He had a picnic in his car when he picked me up today. He had banana bread. Hey,
how about what he did to us at Marianos there?
What did he do?
Well, I was pretty hungry. And then he goes grab some pizza and some
salad. Yeah. He only thought about himself.
Come on, Mike.
He didn't think about anybody else. He goes into he goes into Marianos while we're there working and sweating. He goes in there and gets him the pizza, get some food, and didn't bring us any. Didn't even offer us any.
Oh,
so today he's in there with banana bread. He had some other food, and he was having a picnic in the car when I jumped in. And then he drops his second week in a row, he's dropped something. Last week it was the meatloaf, and I had to catch it. And then this week it was the banana bread, and I had to use my quick cat reflexes to catch his banana bread. It would have been all in his nice new car.
Oh, no.
So now he's out there right now, probably finishing his meal. We've kind of gotten away from the double mint twins because, Mike's had a bad back. And so he's no longer messing with the double mint twins.
Got to take it easy.
Yeah, now he's just walking his steps, and he's just eating his little picnics by himself and not sharing.
I know he's a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And the Stones were here, and I was thinking about Norm Van Leer.
Yes.
Who used to party with the Stones.
Yes. Those stories are legendary.
But the Stones, for people who went to this show, said it was great. These guys are 80 years old and still rocking.
Yeah.
You got to imagine how much longer they're going to do it.
I think it's about it.
Yeah, because I heard they had to bring them on golf carts to get them up to the stage.
Mick is still strutting, but a little bit slower.
Yeah, a little bit slow. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. It's going to be like pretty soon he's just going to be in a chair. It's just going to be like I saw Janet Jackson, okay? And Janet Jackson was phenomenal. Okay, but Janet ain't moving like Janet used to be. Okay, right. She's doing control. She started off with control, and then all of a sudden she just fell on the floor and just started singing. She's laying on the floor. let's take our time. We can do it. Pleasure principle. Oh, and she just laid on the floor. She didn't move.
Let
and
me
I'm
get
like,
some rest. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you're not gonna get up and dance. Like she just laid on the floor. I'm like, okay, when you're a star like that, I guess you can lay on the floor.
Well, I did go to Phil Collins' "I'm Not Dead Yet" tour, and he was in a wheelchair like that singing the whole time. And somehow he could still belt it out. He sounded awesome, but he
wasn't for real.
Was literally slumped in a wheelchair. I mean, it was very emotional in many ways, but you thought it was maybe he was doing a little bit of a joke or playing himself. No, he's saying, "No, I'm not dead yet. I can still do it."
That was really part of the concert.
Yeah,
the kids were like in a wheelchair.
It was something to see. I mean, that was his last.
How
tour.
old is he?
He's not that old. He is. I don't know what the disease is. It's kind of like a ALS.
Oh, come on! You should have led with that. I mean, come on now.
No. It's not that. It's something else. But hey, sorry.
Wow.
Screeching
Mark,
Screeching
I was thinking the same thing. You at least give us a preview of what was going on. You're like, oh, he's not dead yet. Wow.
No, that was the name of his tour. I didn't name it.
Wow.
Whispers again.
Whispers
you
again.
know the show's almost over when Whispers tells the story. Oh, no. Stacey, tell the folks how
to bring you guys up.
Take care of their transportation needs.
Oh, America. Windy City Limousine provides championship service. Making a reservation is so easy. It's a slam dunk. I'm not dead yet. Let Windy City break the full court pressure of traffic and get you to your destination and on style and on time. Contact them at 847-916-9300 and don't expect Phil Collins to answer the phone. WindyCityLimos.com.
And the funny thing is, Whispers got a worker here that looks just like Phil
Yeah,
Collins.
he does.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, you can't. That's a part of the show. You can't tell. Shh.
That's
a secret. He's going to be a guest segment.
He's still alive.
I was going to say something I caught myself. So we're
Don't do it, Mark.
going to wrap it up.
Keep it us there. Keep it to yourself.
We're going to wrap it up before we get in serious trouble here.
Miracle recovery.
Thank our great crew, Dee and Nick, Cisco, doing great work as always.
Shout out to our three guys.
We want to encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and on Odyssey and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We're trying to get our numbers up as we head into the summer and into a new fall
And you're
season.
helping us get our numbers up,
we
America.
appreciate everybody that's been watching and listening. We appreciate every one of you. And if you want to send some questions in, as mentioned, it's going to be a weekly feature. We'll answer some of them here on the podcast. So for Stacey and Whispers, thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll be back with a new show next week.
Drive home safe to Chicago BB. Hey, what's up? This is Stacey King.
And I'm Timmy Whispers.
Of Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Each week, make sure you join us. Timmy Whispers, what do they need to hit?
They need to hit like and subscribe so they get all the notifications and news from our podcast.
That boy is sweet. Just make sure when the video's over, click to the left, and you'll hear our previous videos for the previous week and have some fun because we'd love to have fun on Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, my goodness.